Hello and welcome. This is Cheryl A. Major with ThinStrongHealthy.com. And today I am interviewing the wonderful, talented, and extremely productive Connie Ragen Green. She has been a friend and mentor for many, many years. And welcome, Connie. I am so excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. I appreciate you. And yes, you are one of the longest friends and mentees that I've had online. And we've done so many things together and apart, and I love it all.
Yep. And we've been roommates together at some of your functions, some of your conferences, which was wonderful because we're both introverts. So we both kind of run back to the quiet of the room, which works well for us.
Yes, and I have to tell you, Cheryl, that when I don't have you as a roommate, I appreciate you even more. And then it reminds me. So, sometimes you don't know what you have till it's not there right there with you. So, you're a fabulous roommate. And it's so wonderful that you're preparing food and I'm bringing hard-boiled eggs and we have it working together. So I think we make a great team in that regard.
I agree. Well, today I want to talk a little bit about your business and ask you a couple of questions. Are you up for that?
I'm up for that. Yeah.
Okay.
You mentioned productivity, so I hope you ask me something about that.
I absolutely will ask you about that. And I remember years ago being drawn to you online because we share similar backgrounds. We've both been realtors and teachers, and we're both animal lovers. And I was so impressed that one of the first things I ever heard come out of your mouth was that you were concerned that you were giving enough information, enough content for the price you were asking for a particular course. So Connie goes out of her way to over deliver. And Connie, what keeps you so productive? And have you always been this way? Have you always been really queen of productivity? And there's a new title for you. And if not, how did you get to this point?
All right. No, I was probably the opposite of being productive. So I was probably unproductive. And for all the years, so I'll go back 20 years when I was a teacher and worked in real estate simultaneously. And I believe that I was just working at such a low level. I was just not so productive. The only things I did, because I felt like I didn't have time, which we all have the same number of hours in the day, but I did things at school that needed to be done. And then I did extra things for the kids that I wanted to include. But I was always exhausted and I always felt like I had forgotten to do something or this or that. And then real estate, how we do anything is how we do everything. So in real estate, it was similar where I did what needed to be done. I was a broker. I'm still a broker in California, but I was working as a residential appraiser most of the time during the last 10 years, really. And with that, I did what had to be done. I turned in my appraisal assignments and everything, but I just felt like I could have done more, but I didn't have the time or the energy or anything like that. So I came online. And this is 2006, and I'm at my laptop. I guess I used a desktop at that time, and I'm looking at what I'm doing. And I realized there was that moment of realization, maybe a month in, where I thought the way I've been living and doing things as a teacher and in real estate won't work for my own business. Even though real estate was my own business, it's a different thing when you have your own business in real estate. So online, I was going to be an entrepreneur responsible for every detail of everything. Nobody was going to give me real estate assignments, and I wasn't going to be an employee and get a paycheck or anything. And I thought I have to do things differently. And the first thing I did was I got organized because I was not organized. I had just a big mess. I was the person that couldn't find something and redid things many times because I couldn't find something. And I remember a teacher at the school over the years, she used to say, I'd have an important paper, something from school, and she'd say, make 3 copies, give me one, hide one where you'll be able to find it maybe, and keep one in your purse. And I thought it was so silly, but that's who I had become. And so online, I thought, okay, I have to get organized. Everything has to make sense. And so I started writing everything down. And that's when I learned to have a to-do list and a schedule, 2 different things. So the to-do list, and I always show them, I use these notebooks and I just have there are many legal pads, and I just got pages and pages and pages of stuff. But then it transfers over to a schedule. So this is my schedule for this week and into the weekend. There's not much on it. They're really, and some of these, like we're going back to the Reagan Presidential Library on Saturday, to see an exhibit that won't be there forever. So I think once I got organized, once I had a to-do list and a schedule, that was the first part of being so productive that now every day I say, I got the rest of the day. What am I going to do? And then I find something for me to be productive with. If I'm working on a book or something else, then I do that. So I don't know if I really answered the question, but I'm a different person now than I was. I had to be, or I wouldn't still be in business 17 years after coming online.
So I have a question. You've got a huge big list on your to-do list, but you don't have a lot on your schedule. What happens to all those other things on your to-do list, and how do they get done? Or do they get done?
All right. No, that's a great question. So the way it is, if it's on the to-do list for probably a week, then I have to make that decision. Why didn't it get moved over to my schedule? Sometimes I'm just not going to do it. So I draw a line through it. Sometimes I want it done, but I'm not the best person to do it. So I do an arrow that I'm going to delegate it. And I'll even put the name of the person that's probably going to do it. So like I'm just finishing another book right now, and I know how to do the formatting. I don't know how to do the cover really, but maybe I could figure that out. I don't know. But neither of those things are a good use of my time. So one person will do the formatting, one person will do the cover, and in a week, I'll have what I need so the book can actually be published. So those would be things that would be delegated because it makes sense to delegate. But we have a whole lot of things in our life that can be delegated. So I was telling you just before we started recording this interview about air conditioning systems. So I live in 2 cities, and in one of my cities, the 2 units, it's an upstairs and a downstairs air conditioning unit, finally they have gone kaput. And I've had repairs done a couple times over the years, but finally now it's at the point the repairs were not going to work. So it needed to be installed. So obviously I'm not going to be the person that's going to do that. But what I wanted to do was to delegate it to the right person. So I do what I used to never do. I call people and ask them for help and for recommendations. So in this case, I called 2 people this is in Santa Clarita, the city that I'm not in very often. I'm in Santa Barbara most of the time. So I called 2 people I knew in Santa Clarita, and I said, who do you know that does HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, that could replace everything, in the house there? They both gave me 2 recommendations. And so then I was going to be the one to make those calls. And one person I thought was going to be good, but it turned out he really was too busy. He wasn't even able to get back to me by phone. The other person, very good. His mother runs the office. His wife does the book, so a family operation. Wonderful person, came over to take a look without me being there, because I can't just dash back and forth between the 2 cities. They came over to take a look, talked to him again on the phone, liked him enough to meet him at the property this week, and everything is completed. And this guy, it was as if I had just said, please God, send the perfect person. I don't want to take a lot of time with this, and I don't want it to cost a fortune. Please send the right person who will just tell me what he's going to do it, and let me pay the bill. And that's what happened, because that's my expectation these days. So that I did not delegate except for the work itself. And so that made a difference. But I think, I used to never ask for help. I saw that as weakness, and instead it's a great strength, because when somebody calls me and asks me for a recommendation or for help of some kind, I'm honored. The 2 people that I called, one was a man, one was a woman, they were honored that I called them so they could tell their story about the people they were recommending to me.
That's a wonderful perspective on asking for help, because I know many of us, included, feel like we should be able to do everything all by ourselves and not bother people, or not be able to do it as well as somebody else. It's you put that kind of pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
So very interesting. I know that you've been I will say, wildly successful in your niche, and you have a huge gargantuan worldwide community that follows you and looks to you for guidance and education. So you've got your thumb on a lot of stuff, and you've got a lot of plates spinning. And I guess my last question for you during our interview would be, what is at the stage that you're at now with your business being so successful, what do you find the most challenging still?
The most challenging, I think, is, because I've been mentoring people for 15 years. I waited till I got to 6 figures with online marketing and everything that I was doing before I started mentoring people. I see too many people that immediately they want to charge people for coaching or mentoring or something when they're still trying to figure it out themselves. And, once I started doing that, in the beginning, I would let people into the program who had just left employment, either retired or had quit, or a spouse relocates and then they don't have a job in the new location. And I figured out within that first 2 years, it took me that long to figure out they had been mediocre employees, and they thought that work ethic was going to work online. And it's similar to me, where, I was doing everything I needed to do, but not a whole lot over and above. That won't work in a business. It just won't work. So that's a challenge, to try to figure out who I'm going to be able to work with. Because like somebody recently just came into the program that I met her at an event I was speaking at about 4 years ago, I guess. And she said, I need help with marketing. I need help. So we stayed in touch a little bit, but now I'm working with her. She has a very powerful work ethic. She's worked for corporations where they require so much that she sees the online world is not being so demanding at all. So that's my challenge, is finding the right people to work with. Because if people will shift their thinking and say, okay, I have to do things differently now that I'm the face of the business, and everything that I put out there will represent me. And we all have messy things. I just shared a post on Twitter about positioning yourself as an expert. I went ahead and posted it, but that post needs to be refreshed, we call it. It needs a different image. It needs to be rewritten. It needs a different call to action at the end. So when people are willing to do that and already know that this is hard work, I don't want to brag that I only work a few hours a day. I want to say I only have to work a few hours a day to meet my income goal for the day. After that, I get to do even more fun stuff that I love doing around writing and marketing and entrepreneurship. So that's my challenge. And I think over time, we get better with our challenges. But every day, that's what I'm thinking of. How can I bring the right people into the program so they can truly be successful financially and otherwise?
So interesting. So interesting. Connie, thank you for spending this time. Where can people find you?
I like to send people to Twitter. So if you go to twitter.com/Connie Green, I'm not Connie Ragen Green there because it's one too many letters, but you'll find my link tree that has everything. And then very quickly, you can go to ConnieRagenGreen.com. Ragen is R-A-G-E-N. It's a misspelling of King Lear's daughter, but I would love to connect with you.
Super. Connie Ragen Green, thank you so much for spending this time with us. I really appreciate it. And thank you out there in internet land for listening and tuning in. This is Cheryl A. Major, thinstronghealthy.com. Check it out. And I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.